So I'm Dana De Filippi. I'm from DC. I currently work at Smith Group. I'm the Revit chick in my office. I have a background in architectural production, and I was always the one that wanted to make things more efficient. So I moved over to the BIM side quite a while ago. And as Jeff mentioned, I'm also part of the Revit DC advisory board. So definitely appreciate all the survey comments and all that good stuff. All right, so we're going to talk about today. Before I start, architects in the room? Hands? Engineers? Okay. People who have done life safety calculations? Okay, quite a few. Opened Dynamo? Oh, okay, all right, we're gonna get you there, This is not a Dynamo session. I'm not gonna teach you how to use Dynamo. I taught that last December, I think. Maybe I'll teach it again sometime here at Moseley. But everything that I go through here today, I'm gonna give to you. You can dissect it. This is actually how I got my start in Dynamo, so encourage you guys to get in there. It's a lot of fun, just running the scripts, just start there. All right, so we're gonna go through what it is for the occupancy calculation, number of occupants in a space. Life safety is tons of calculations. We're gonna talk about this one in particular, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna develop an area scheme. And this is going to be an area scheme specifically for life safety. We're going to generate some area boundary lines, right? We've done this, right, Hans? Area boundary lines, calculate square footage in a space. Awesome, okay. We're going to import some stuff. We're going to generate some calculated values. We're going to talk about, kind of quirks in the calculation. Make it easier for our users by creating some conditional formatting. And we're going to discuss how to deal with future changes, right? Spaces change, buildings change, things get VE'd, right? So how the number of occupancy changes as the building changes. So I will say this is a topic near and dear to my heart. You'll see I actually put this up on Instagram, my first Dynamo script. I was so excited about it. So my first Dynamo graph ever was related to occupancy calculations. This is something specifically that I learned Dynamo for. So I've been doing this for over 3 years, and you'll see that date there is a Saturday. So it's something that I really, really enjoy. I'm really passionate about this. I've been doing it for a really long time. So why this? Why did I learn Dynamo for this? Well, everybody here, if you've worked in Revit occupancy calculations, you probably know that it's not the best system, right? It's not really set up to do what you want it to do. If you Google it, you'll see there's 69,000 results in a quarter of a second, right? So essentially, we don't want to automate everything, right? When we automate something, we want to make sure that what I usually say is that the juice is worth the squeeze, right? So first of all, I don't want to export anything. I want it all to be in Revit. I want to be able to share key values. Essentially, this is a handicap within Revit, which is why I learned Dynamo. You also cannot tag calculated values. So this is actually, once again, my first Dynamo script, was getting over these hurdles that Revit cannot do. Luckily, in Revit 2017, you're able to calculate values in tags, which is nice. We'll talk about that. For those of you who have worked in life safety, you may be aware that there's multiple jurisdictions, which means there's multiple codes, which means there's different calculations depending on where you live. So I want to be able to import that data depending on where my location is. If you only have one location, lucky you. We also want to automate some things. So for example, boundary lines, right? If you've ever had to draw area boundary lines, I've automated it for you. So before we get started, for those of you who are familiar with Dynamo, it's open source. People can create custom nodes. And this is really fantastic. It's a really great way for us to share within the industry. So you need 3 packages here, and I'm going to share them with you. Archilab Bumblebee, and Clockwork for Dynamo help me do this within Dynamo. Awesome. So number of occupants. So essentially the code book, the International Building Code, says that essentially you take an area of a space, you divide it by a load factor, right? What is given to you based off the code, and then that equals your numbers of occupants, right? So it seems pretty straightforward, right? So the first step we need to do is think about area. So I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox here. I'm using areas and not rooms in Revit, and there's a few reasons why. First off, Areas are not as restrictive as rooms. You'll see that rooms only calculate based off of one face of the wall, right? For life safety, we need to go to the center of the wall, the exterior of the wall, different faces of the walls. We can use also walls, columns, room separation lines. There's a lot of things that bound rooms. So sometimes it gets ambiguous. The lines get fuzzy between what's actually calculating what's not. We can use a room separator, right? If we go in there and just tell the wall not to be room bounding, but then of course we're gonna get lots of warnings. This isn't necessarily something that's gonna cause a lot of problems in your model, but this will lead to thousands of warnings, right? It's something that I like to avoid as the Revit girl in my office. Also, an area dictated by the life safety code, right, may actually encompass multiple rooms, right? So kind of want to keep it as a separate space. You'll show here that the tooltip for areas actually shows a residential unit, right? So that's multiple bedrooms, a kitchen, living room, etc. And my favorite part is it keeps it separate, right? An area scheme So pretty straightforward here, right? We have our name, number of occupants, and area. However, the number of occupants is a calculation. Calculations aren't shared, right? So essentially what I have to do is I have to create that same calculated value in the tag family, right? So I go into the tag family, right? We've all been in here. Edit family, go into the tag, and we're going to edit the label. And essentially, we're going to create a calculated value that is exactly that same formula, right? So that my schedule and my tag are reading the exact same formula with the conditional formatting built in to catch my fixed seating. Okay, so now my schedule's reading the formula, my tag's reading the formula, we'll load that in, everything's reading the same values. Awesome. So the workflow in action, right? This is this video I created. It's, I believe, 6 times fast. Essentially, we're going to come in here. We're going to create our area boundary lines, right? So we already have our plan, our area scheme, and assuming we have some rooms, right? So it creates the area boundary lines from the rooms. A little bit of the user part, right? We have to come in here and we have to place the areas. I haven't created Dynamo script for this yet. Maybe soon. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and bring in our functions of space, right? So you'll see there, we're going to go into our Dynamo schedule here, edit some inputs, specify what our code version is, run that, loads in our function of space keys, and now we can associate those to our areas, right? So we can go in there and we can say, okay, we have some classrooms, you know, some general spaces, restrooms, anything that's going to be occupied, right? We can go ahead and assign a function of it. And you'll see that as I do that, the gray values, our keys, are automatically populating in the back, right? I believe in total I calculated the occupancy for the advanced project in Revit in 6 minutes. So then I copy the occupancy load factors. I have one fixed space, I tell it what the space is, and now I have 487 total occupants for my floor. Right? Super easy. Everybody could do that here. However, there's going to be changes, right? Our building is going to move. We're going to get some walls changes, areas are going to change. We're going to change functions of spaces. So some scenarios here. First, the area boundary line moves. Right, so you'll see there, my boundary line is now falling over top of the columns. Everybody see that? So my area automatically updates, right, because it's driven based off those area boundary lines. If my area boundary lines move, square footage changes. So this is an automatic change. You'll see that as my area changes, my occupancy load automatically updates. Right, so there's no work that I need to do. All I need to do is change the area boundary line. So as I was saying, I generated this from the rooms. Well, now you can go in here and you can move the lines around and make them based off the gross versus net calculation that you need. And as you do that, your occupancy load values will automatically update in the back. All right, then let's just say your override changes, right? So you go in there and you're, you have less, excuse me, you have less seats. No longer do you have 6 tables, you have 5 tables. We're going to assume they're fixed. So that is an automatic change as well, because once again, it's reading right from the formula. Because it's a fixed seat, it's automatically going to change. So your function of space changes, right? So we decide to use an unconcentrated space, which is a 15 occupancy load factor, rather than the 7. This is going to require one additional step. So we change the value, right? We go in there, we change our key value. That automatically changes our gray values, right? But remember, our calculation is actually coming from the light blue value. And that didn't change. You see the 7 stayed the same. So what I need to do is I need to run the Dynamo script, the copy occupant load factor script, and that will automatically copy the value over and update my occupant load factor. Looks like I have a little bit of an error there. Then let's just say that you talk with the jurisdiction, right? They'd say, oh, you don't need to use the 7, use the 15 occupancy load factor. So you change that in the background, right? But once again, it's not using that value. It's using the light gray or light blue value, so we're going to copy that value over. So essentially both of those processes, anything that changes your function of space key values, you're going to just copy the occupant load factors using the Dynamo script. So this is something that I usually will tell my users, just run this before you print, right? And then you know that all your values are right, that they're all coming from the same value. So kind of a QA thing, if you will. So we've automated it. So what do you need to do this? You need the area scheme life safety. You need to bring in my area schedules, right, the color-coded ones. So the area value, the area schedule with all those different code values, and then the function of space key that we populate through Excel, right? You need some Dynamo packages, which I talked about at the beginning, and you need my 3 Dynamo scripts. And lastly, the area tag. This is all in my Google Drive. So you guys can get all of this stuff right from there. The Dynamo scripts, this presentation, the handout that went with it, the Revit sample file that has everything with it, the schedules and all that good stuff. You guys can just bring it right into your project and hopefully get it to work. Any questions? It's a lot of information. I know. What time is it? Thank you. Thank you. Oh, perfect. Great. Great. Perfect. Okay, so don't forget the survey. You guys should get an email or something. I love comments. Constructive are fine. I have tough skin over here. And I went very fast. So any questions? I want to leave it open. I think we have like 15 minutes, right? Yeah. Yeah?
Any questions on any of this?
Went super fast. There was a lot. Yes, so that's a very good question. So I am, like I said, the Revit girl in my office, and I actually am lucky enough to have a team of people that are really great at what they do. I kind of own the Dynamo packages. So I make sure that they're up to date, that the Dynamo scripts are working. You know, I field all those problems when something's not working. So Dynamo, it gets automatically installed with Revit, in the newer versions in particular. So hopefully you should have Dynamo already. If you don't, it's free. You can get it. It's super easy. You can get it right from the website. That's definitely something that I encourage everybody to do. Go to the Dynamo website. People are so great on there. Even if you don't have a question, just go through and see what some of the problems people are coming up with. If you do have a problem, post on there. You'll see immediate responses. With that being said, Smith Group is lucky enough to be a big enough firm that when we do the install, it automatically paths to those places. I will say that Dynamo has a lot of quirks, just like Revit does, right? That's why I have a job. I don't know about you guys. But so it has some problems with server size and some weird oddities. So we're actually working on copying all the packages down to the local location. So you know, that's something that I've worked really closely with my IT to start mandating, is that it searches for updates to that folder and copies the changes down so that everything is driven from the C drive location. Getting super nerdy over here. So luckily, there was a giant shift in versioning for Dynamo recently. We have Dynamo 2.0 now, 2.02 or something we're up to. And so it's a completely different setup than Dynamo 1. Luckily for you guys, I provided both versions of the scripts, so you're welcome. But yes, that's something that I definitely had to do. And in the new API in Dynamo, it actually finds more categories. So all of my category lists got messed up, so I have to, you know, there's just weird quirks that you have to start to think about. No. Yeah. Well, so I think it's stabilizing a lot. I think that we're going to see a lot less problems with the new platform in Dynamo 2. So hopefully, especially for those of you that are going to be new Dynamo users, you won't have to deal with that too much. And hopefully going forward, it's not an issue. But once again, you just kind of... I live my whole life. I'm the Dynamo girl in my office, totally. I'll say, yeah, I'll say that this provides a huge shift in our industry. In 10 years, if you don't know about computation and how computation will help you, you're going to have a really hard time finding a job, especially as a new architect or new engineer. This is where our industry is going. And you know, I'm luckily enough to be able to track people and what they do and whether they're using my tools. And if they're not, I bring my ruler over, you know, and because they're really wasting time. They're legitimately wasting time. They're manually transcribing stuff. They're adding data rows. They're doing stuff which I've created efficiency scripts for, right? So, you know, they could have created 5 plans in the time they created 1. You know, definitely coaching, making it available, making it, you know, the documentation there, creating these presentations and making it so that, you know, the community starts to understand where this stuff goes. I'm thinking about doing a presentation next year at AU on quality control scripts. So updating your key plan automatically, right? Your sheet says that it's area A. I can read that in Dynamo and check the box that says area A for your key plan. Don't open up every sheet and do that. Run my script, right? You can do that with graphic scales. It knows that it's an 1/8. Check the box for an 1/8 graphic scale, right? So you just run the script before you print, and you know it's right. A lot less red lines. So I definitely encourage you guys. This is where I got my start in Dynamo. I'm obviously very passionate about it. You guys can reach out to me. I have some cards here if you guys want to come chat afterwards. So. Oh, yeah. Boundary lines and essentially extrude a geometry from it. I work mostly with data in Dynamo. I'm pushing data around for construction documentation, but there's so much that you can do with geometry. So that's usually where you see computation used, is the early on side of design, right? I don't use it for that. I use it for production. Any other questions? We'll be here for a while.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah.